Okay, Ramblers, let's get rambling.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Dr. Nick.
Welcome to my next ranking series. And yes, I said series. In this ranking series, what I'm going to do is go through all of the theatrical re-releases I watched for 2024. Go through them, rank them as best as I possibly can, because I'll tell you what, this was not easy. You want to rank movies that come out in 1 year, you spread them out, you mix them up, you do that, you put them together. Okay, not easy, but doable. You do a ranking of a year's worth of re-releases. These are re-releases, so by definition, by being there, there's a 99% chance you're already watching the movie because you have a pre-existing love for it. It's not something you're necessarily going into blindly, although there are some here that will apply. So now you're taking a collection, however many that may be, of films that you already love, and maybe a few oddities, and you've got to rank those. There is absolutely no way I could order this list and be happy with it. I could come up with 20 different combinations of it and be equally thrilled and miserable with the result at the same time. It's just not going to happen. In this case, to try to help things along just a little bit, I took into consideration my theatrical experience with it, the environment in which I saw it. Not fair to the movie, but at the same time, I had to have some kind of mitigating factors to lump in here for criteria. Because I say, I love this, I love this, I love this, I love this, I love this. Okay, I've got 100 different number ones and 5 number 2s. I did not watch 105 films in 2024. We can get that out of the way now. But how many did I watch? We're going to start and we're going to find out right now, because at number is from 1986, directed by Jim Henson himself. We have Labyrinth. Labyrinth is a movie that I had never seen all the way through. When it was presented as a theatrical re-release last year, I jumped on it. I know that this has a level of popularity to it and cult classic status, I guess. Jennifer Connelly, of course. David Bowie, yes. And Dance, Magic Dance. Oh, did I hate this movie? Oh my God. Oh, I never want to watch this again. And sadly, and I say this very much so, I bought the damn thing on 4K before I watched it in the theater. Yep, I sure did. Because of its reputation, I took a leap of faith that thought that I would be okay watching this, and I liked it, and sat down in the theater, which typically offers me the most immersion and offers me the greatest likelihood that I will actually like the movie. Because when I like a movie and I see it in the theater, I end up loving it more because of that experience. And that is pretty much a universal thing. So giving myself the best opportunity to enjoy this film, I did not. That's why it's at the bottom. Nope. Dance, magic dance. Next up on the list, from 1999, directed by the not-so-great George Lucas. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I've never liked this movie. Hot take, George Lucas destroyed Star Wars, not the Rodent House. George Lucas killed it. The Rodent House has cremated the corpse after he sold it off for drinking money. Star Wars in 1983 had 75% good movies. And why do I say that? Because there were already 4 by then. And yes, we're counting the holiday special, which is utter dog shit. 1984, 1985 saw 2 more Star Wars films in the Ewok Adventures and Battle for Endor, right? Those were utter garbage. Guess what? We're 50-50 at this point. Shit for shit. 3 great, 3 crap. 1997 rolls around. The egomaniac himself decides to take his original trilogy, remaster it, re-release it in the theaters with our beloved, hated special edition trilogy, which completely destroyed so many aspects of the original trilogy and removed the original theatrical releases from the market almost entirely. How do you balance that? Do you count them as separate movies themselves, or do you count them as replacements for the originals? If you count them as replacements, all of Star Wars sucks at this point. If you count them as separate movies, well, now you are looking at 3 great films and 6 bad ones. We're not looking so good here. Starting in 1999 through 2005, we get the prequel trilogy. Yes, overall, there's a couple little good nuggets in there. One of those nuggets being Ewan McGregor's performance as Obi-Wan Kenobi. Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn, pretty decent. Can't stand Samuel L. Jackson in this role at all. He's bland and he's wooden and he has no charisma whatsoever. Puppet Yoda in The Phantom Menace looks stupid. Made worse by then, hey, let's go ahead and digitize him for CGI for the next 2 films. The directing is bad, the writing is bad. Most of the performances are bad under George Lucas's direction. In the original trilogy days, this man had writing collaborators, editing collaborators, people he could bounce his ideas off that would get legitimate, honest feedback and work with him for a better result. By the time the prequels came around, he was surrounded by yes men. His original sounding boards were gone, surrounded by people now who only wanted to serve the master. All ego, all the time, and this was the result. And it all started with The Phantom Menace, which I did not get to see in the theater, thankfully, when it first came out. Knowing how I felt about the film for all these years, it came out. Now it's under the control of the Rodent House, whom I will not give my money to, boycotting them exclusively, entirely across the board. I bought a ticket to another film. I gave another studio my money, snuck in, sat down, watched it. Big screen experience did nothing for me. It changed nothing at all whatsoever. I hate this movie. I hate everything George Lucas has done since The Return of the Jedi came out. I hate all his re-releases, his special editions, his tweaks, his modifications, his constant revisions to his own movies, which he has done with both the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. Yeah. Why, George? Why? I actually had hope when he sold this thing to the Rodent House. This was pre-boycott days. I had hopes that maybe they could do something with it that he could not. We all know where that went. But I don't hate them for it, because my love for the franchise was already gone long before that man ever decided to sell. And yeah. Phantom Menace, baby. No, sorry. Next to the bottom on the list. It's only for the slight bit of reminiscing, some decent special effects work for the time that bumped that sucker up one notch above Labyrinth. No.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent. Now get out of here.
From 2007, directed by Sam Raimi, we have the nail in the coffin for the Spider-Man trilogy that is Spider-Man 3. Whether by choice or by studio interference or a combination of the two, this took a trilogy or a franchise of 2 solidly made films and threw everything down into the toilet. Whoosh, flush. Too many villains, poor writing, some disastrously fake red hair on Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane Watson, some poor performances overall, some rewriting of history, and my personal favorite, the destruction of the alien costume saga. I want to thank the Spider-Man animated series from the mid-90s for that, early 90s, because for whatever reason, when they made that cartoon, somebody there had an idea to say, you know what, we're going to make this alien goo monster creature that becomes a living costume for Spider-Man. We're going to have it make him stronger, manipulate his personality, his psyche, his emotional state of being, and basically turn Spider-Man into a bad guy. Well, guess what? That never actually happened. Anybody that's read comic books in the 1984 or so when the alien costume was introduced, it was nothing more initially than an extravagant piece of attire that could sense Peter Parker's thoughts, become whatever clothing he wanted it to be, would leave him when he wanted it to be left, would come back on to him at a command of his thoughts, and he would go about life. It's only later discovered that this thing is actually alive, that it is possessing his body, albeit when he's sleeping, and controlling him as he sleeps, feeding off of his life force, basically, as a symbiote, not enhancing his strength, not altering his personality or his perceptions or his emotions or his mental state of being, but trying to bond to him permanently as a life source, as a fuel source, as food, as sustenance. And it was strictly the bonding that was the problem, the manipulation. Of course, he was at that point being drained, so he's going through a period of increased exhaustion because as he's sleeping, this alien has taken over his body and taking him around the city and forcing him to exert himself, feeding off of that. So Peter Parker's body is not actually getting any rest while he's sleeping. He's still exerting himself. The animated series, and then consequently Spider-Man 3 and so many things that have come after, took what was an intriguing concept, but to bring it into an abridged version of it, decided to go in this different direction. It's never worked for me at all. I dislike it very strongly. And I even more strongly dislike this representation of it because it made Peter Parker an absolute buffoon while at the same time making him mean and nasty. And had that not occurred, maybe this would have been a lot better movie. Today, it could almost be seen as a guilty pleasure. So bad, it's not a so bad it's a good movie, but in this theatrical viewing, and I did see it in the theater when it first released, so this is my second, it was so bad it was funny. I was in not a sold out crowd watching this, but it was a fairly crowded theater. We were all laughing our asses off, having fun with it, because so much time now has passed, we don't have to take this seriously. We know what it is, we know what to expect, and we can have fun with it. All the memes that have come off this movie alone are just mind-blowing in itself. So it's like, you know what? Come in there, have a good time with it, knowing what to expect, and I certainly did. And much as I had fun, I still recognize that it's a bad movie, hence the rating. So, where do you go? Good time, bad movie. We're going with the bad movie ranking on this one, because overall, that's the way it is.
I'm gonna cry.
From 1984. Rest in peace, David Lynch, whom we just lost a few days ago. This is his ambitious, epic, enormous film that failed. Dune. I never saw Dune in a theater before. I have seen the theatrical release. I have seen the extended edition, which David Lynch had no participation in and disowned, would refuse to be credited for, which of consequently I actually prefer. So in watching the two of them, I thought, you know what, in preferring the extended edition, maybe I would gain an appreciation for the theatrical cut if I saw it in the theater. I wanted to try to experience today what so many experienced in 1984. because this film does have a following. It has a group of people who appreciate it, and I wanted to see what they saw. I did. I went. I'll still say it's better than either of Denis Villeneuve's films, but it's incomplete, which is why I prefer the extended edition. Because for a lot of the things that this film got right, it probably got just as many wrong. Extended edition remedies quite a lot of that, but not all. Well, again, this is one that I'm torn on my ranking. If the extended edition was released in the theaters, which I don't think it ever has been, this probably would be higher up on my list. Because so much is lost in whatever, the 45 minutes or half hour or whatever it is extra footage in the extended edition. This film does better in the world building department than I think Denis Villeneuve's. And yes, I know his name's Denis Villeneuve. I pronounce him Denis Villeneuve on purpose because I think he's a hack fraud. My problem in trying to talk about Dune 1984 is it's very difficult for me in my mind to separate the theatrical from the extended edition. So when I start talking about things like world building or the presentation of the universe in which they live, it's difficult for me to recollect what is and is not in the theatrical cut unless I'm there watching it. As I'm there watching it, in my head I can insert the other parts that are missing. But removed from that environment, I don't know. And I've got right there the Blu-ray that I bought from ViaVision last fall on Blu-ray that has both cuts of the film on it. Although I already had the theatrical on Blu-ray. I only had the extended on DVD, so I got that for the improvement, and it is. I played with how I could rank that one higher, but I went as low as I did because I know the theatrical cut is inferior one. I know it is. It absolutely is. It's objectively worse. But because my recollections are so unclear, I don't know where to put it in my ranking. I don't know how much higher to get it before I'm being dishonest with myself for not knowing for sure which cut I'm actually ranking, because I can't fully separate the two. And that's a problem. It's my problem, but there we have it.
The sleeper has awakened!
From 1962, directed by David Lean, we have a Fathom event release. Not quite an anniversary, and a first-time viewing for me in any way whatsoever. We have Lawrence of Arabia. Why is Lawrence of Arabia ranked as low as it is, given its status amongst film lovers? 3 reasons, I guess. 1, it's long. It's 3 hours and 47 minutes. The film is not unengaging by any means whatsoever. It is, however, spoilerific. And I'm not saying anything to anybody really here, even if you haven't seen the film, because main character Lawrence, who has yet to become of Arabia yet in the film, his opening scene in the first 2 minutes shows him getting killed. And this takes place after the events of the rest of the film, which are told in flashback. So for a 3 hour and 47 minute movie, I'm watching 3 hours and 45 minutes of that movie of a character that's already dead. Probably not, in my opinion, the best narrative choice. Obviously, many people disagree considering the status of this film for the last 60 years. Fathom Events brought it back. I had never seen it. I felt I owed myself to watch this film. I knew nothing about it whatsoever, other than the fact that it took place in Arabia. It starred Peter O'Toole. Next problem with the film, at a 3 hour and 47 minute runtime, through no fault of the film's own. That's where I talk about the environment coming into play in my ratings. My local theater that I went and saw this at decided it was a good idea to play a 3 hour and 47 minute long movie at 7 o'clock in the night. For any regular runtime, that would have been perfectly fine. You go in there, You sit down, you get a little bit by Leonard Maltin, I believe, which is common for a Fathom release. You get 5 or 10 minutes of overture before the film starts. Halfway through the film, you get another 10 or 15 minute intermission before continuing on. Next thing I know, it's 11 o'clock. I'm typically not a night person. I'm watching this film, and I'm aware that there's approximately a half hour left of runtime. It's building up for some perceived epic finale. It's revving up for that. I'm watching. I blink, my eyes open, and the end is on the screen. I fell asleep in the movie theater. I had a big cup of coffee, 20 ounces, and a big tub of large popcorn, which I finished. These are things I do when I go to nighttime viewings at the theater. Anything typically after 7 or 7:30, I make sure to bring in coffee and have a popcorn, stuff to keep myself caffeinated and engaged and active so that I don't fall asleep. Because I've fallen asleep at the Fellowship of the Rings in the theater. I've fallen asleep at Raiders of the Lost Ark in the theater. I've fallen asleep at Arrival in the theater. Speaking of Denis Villeneuve, I can fall asleep watching anything in a comfortable chair in a theater. I just can't. It's one of my issues. It's been long term. Way back, I've been doing this. So I try to be prepared. I missed the entire last half hour of this film. My fault. I couldn't have helped it. The theater could have played it earlier. I understand an intermission. It's not the worst thing in the world. I certainly took advantage of it, got up, used the restroom, walked around a little bit because I knew what my tendencies were, and I knew, okay, I'm going to try to combat this preemptively as best I could. It didn't work. It was too late at night. I couldn't help it. I couldn't do anything about it. That took away from my experience. That took away from my enjoyment of the film. I might have enjoyed it, appreciated it more. But given the overall circumstances, this is why it ended up where it's at. So, sorry, Mr. O'Toole. I tried. 1993, directed by Barry Sonnenfeld. We have the Addams Family Values. In 2023, I had the fortune of seeing the Addams Family brought back to the theater. I'd never seen the Addams Family before. For reasons I don't understand, when the film came out, I rejected it outright. Had no interest in seeing it. Couldn't tell you why. Dismissed it. Sequel came around. Obviously not going to want to watch that either. But both films completely passed me by. Cool. No worries. No regrets. No thoughts. Years later. The Wednesday series comes out. People were raving about it. It came out in 2023. I don't stream, so I didn't watch it. Perfectly fine. But the interest in the show kind of like, okay. It resonated a little bit, right? Like it was there, it was present. So when the Addams Family was announced for a one-show re-release, okay, it's the 30th anniversary. Here it is. Why not? Maybe this is my time to check it out, see what all the fuss is about. Go away, little flying creature. I watched it and I loved it. Thrilled. Had a great time with this movie. Like, hey, what have I been missing all these years, right? Cool. All right. Watch the Wednesday series. Because after loving that, I jumped on the Blu-ray release when Wednesday came out right away. Got it. Watched it. Absolutely loved that too. We're on a roll here, man. This is like, bam, cream of the crop, man. I'm just loving every second of it. So then Addams Family Values comes around. I'm like, okay. They had just announced or had just released a 4K upgrade on that. And I'd already bought the Addams Family after watching it at the theater. Already had Wednesday. Addams Family Values gets announced. I'm listening to people talk about it, And I swear, when this film was released originally in '93, it was shit on. I mean, just across the board. People were like, this is absolute utter garbage. And people hated it. So, of course, hey, back then I felt like completely justified in passing it up, right? Well, when the release comes, I'm seeing the forums all over Blu-ray.com, people praising this. They can't wait, and they're like throwing out quotes and talking about characters and situations and everything else. And where were you people in 1993? Like, so I asked, I could have swore this movie had a really bad reputation for being crap. Why are you people so excited about it? And my comments got downvoted like you wouldn't believe. I'm like, I'm just asking a question. I've never seen the thing. I have no opinion about it whatsoever. No hate at all. I'm perceived one thing happening in 93, and what I'm seeing now is a complete opposite. I'm just trying to understand the difference. What happened, right? Well, apparently a lot of people came around. I'm like, okay, all right, I get that. Perspectives and opinions change over the years. Completely cool. So when the theatrical re-release was announced, I'd already seen in the first film, already seen and loved both that and Wednesday. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go. And I went. And while it was decent, I didn't love it. I didn't think it was as good as The Addams Family, the first film. Definitely didn't think it was better than. Didn't even think it was on par with. There wasn't anything about that film that I found better or even as good as the first film at all. It was a nice continuation, a further exploration of the characters from the first film, the same actors and performances and everything else. But I still don't understand that hype. I understand the hype for the first film. I share it now. I'm on that Addams Family train. I'm on the Wednesday train. Addams Family Values, it's okay. I have yet to buy the 4K. I will. I'll add it to it because I got to pair something with my Addams Family and get those together. I will. I don't object to rewatching it at some point, but I'm not excited about it. I'm not happy. I'm not thrilled. It's just it is there. It is number 23. That's all I got to say about that. Okay, my viewers, SumDum guy needs your help, all your help. For those of you who have watched this now this long, then I'm going to present something to you that you probably 99% of you are not going to like. And I'm saying it not in a negative way, not in an attacking way, not in a disparaging way whatsoever. Much like with the Addams Family Values, this is me asking and hoping to understand. I got that little no-see-em bastard. I need guidance, okay? Because I don't get it. From 1982, theatrical re-release of Ridley Scott's classic, Blade Runner. I'm not saying anything bad about the movie. I don't have anything bad to say about the movie. It's there. It exists. I have seen it before, not in a theater. Seen it in home video, whatever. Which cut? I don't know. I own it on 4K. Bought it not too long ago. For the same reason I went back to the theater to see it on its re-release. Because I want to understand the popularity, the hype, the cult following that this film has. I've never understood it. I don't understand it. I've sat through the movie theatrically now in the best viewing experience. I don't know which cut I saw. And it's there. I watched it. I'm okay. There, screen, watching, good, okay. I wasn't immersed. I wasn't really engaged. It's there. I'm not. I don't get it. Please, down here, if you have a strong opinion that you would like to share with me to help me understand why this is such a great movie, that maybe I can tap into and rewatch and pick up on these things that I'm apparently not getting after watching the movie twice, would very much appreciate the assistance, because I don't want to dislike this movie, and I just don't like it. I don't understand the appeal of it, and I want to. So help me out here, would you?
Like tears in rain.
1985. Written and directed by the legendary John Hughes. Interesting prelude for a film ranked so low on my list. We have The Breakfast Club. Easy, don't hate. I love The Breakfast Club. I own it. I've watched it many, many times. It's a classic. Hey, kitty. I love this film. I always have. Saw it in high school health class, I think. It's probably a pretty close to a perfect film. I may or may not have seen it in the theater prior to this last year. Not 100% sure. I don't think so, but maybe. This film is and will always be a favorite of mine. Where would I rank it overall? There's just no way. When I say my favorites, there's just... I can't even pick a favorite movie, let alone even probably come up with a top 20 or even a top 30. It's way up there, though. Trust me. So why did I rank it so low? One reason and one reason alone. The movie theater that showed it is older. It's run down, has inferior seating, an inferior screen. And in this case, they had a corrupted audio file. Movie started, we're watching right from the very beginning. Something's wrong with the audio. Everything dialogue-wise sounded like it was coming through a tin can. Not kidding. We get 5, maybe 10 minutes into the film. I don't remember if it was me. It might have been me. Got up and said, hey, started talking to people. They stopped the movie. We spent about 10 minutes staring at a blank screen. They came in and explained that they are having issues with their drive, that they were rebooting. They'd be back up, hopefully fixed. They did their thing and came back up. Same problem. They were unable to correct whatever technical glitch was causing this tin can audio. So we all had to endure that. All the dialogue was perfectly audible. You could understand everything everybody was saying. It just had a very hollow, metallic sound to it. On the plus side, we all got a credit for a free movie later to be watched. A little gift certificate or something. But that's the only reason this is being ranked as low as it is. Strictly theatrical experience. Love the movie. Otherwise, if my theatrical experience had been up there, it would have easily been in my top 10, probably my top 5 on this ranking list. But stuff has to be pushed down. Because again, I love almost every single one of these movies that are on my list, and stuff has to end up on the bottom, and there have to be reasons for it. And I have to take, like I said, the theatrical viewing experience into account on this one. And unfortunately, The Breakfast Club had a poor presentation. No fault of the movie, no fault to anybody else, of anybody, period. It's just circumstantial. And that's the result. I'm sorry. I love you, Breakfast Club. I won't forget about you.
My light didn't go on.